Hello everyone, and welcome to the 2018 Virginia Beach Chemtrail Conference. This is our first formal meeting on the East Coast, but happily it is an international event with speakers from Canada and South America, as well as presenters from regions across the United States. My name is Amanda Bays, but on the internet I'm better known as Madison Star Moon. Today I will have the pleasure of introducing some of the most passionate and knowledgeable leaders in the field of chemtrail pollution. They will focus on the causes and serious consequences to our health and environment brought about by this threat. They will also explore where we are as an instrument of opposition and what we can do to effectively confront the danger. We are, in one sense, a movement, a group of activists urgently concerned about the well-being of the planet, but we do not necessarily speak with one voice. We hold different theories about who and why this travesty is being carried out. We differ in our ideology and methods. Probably the most valuable benefit of this conference is the opportunity to learn and share, to hear diverse viewpoints, and to remain alert to the challenges we have before us. So again, welcome, relax, open your minds, and let's get down to the business of saving the world. For the past 7 years, my mission in life has been to stop the chemical spraying of our skies. I've reached out to every level of government in an attempt to have chemtrails investigated. To date, no one in any position of authority has helped me. Each agency refuses to take ownership of the issue. I am passed back and forth between inept officials who, without testing the emissions, claim that the trails we see in the sky are merely ice crystals. No one can know what is being sprayed into the atmosphere without testing the air. I testified before the EPA as a witness to spraying programs and even provided lab results of contaminated water, soil, blood, and hair. The EPA has never investigated any of those findings. I have hundreds of hours of recorded conversations proving the government is guilty of omission, failure to act. I also have thousands of photos and video evidence showing the devastation of these aerosol programs. The following video, which I do not have set up, Jack, come here real quick. I need to change this video out.
Exactly.
Okay, so what do you do?
So the other thing is horrifying, is that you could actually spray sulfuric acid into the stratosphere 20 kilometers over our head and use that to stop the planet warming up in a ugly tech fix.
You could spray something into the atmosphere to change.
Spray pollution into the atmosphere to stop it warming.
So in the end, pollution saves them all.
Totally imperfect technical fix.
Okay.
It would have risks. It wouldn't get us out of the long run need to stop polluting, but it might actually save people and be useful.
How does it work? How many planes are we talking about here? How do you do this?
So let's say you wanted to stop it warming in 2020.
Yeah.
You'd start with a fleet of just 2 or 3 kind of modified business jets. You'd put, say, 20,000 tons of sulfuric acid into the stratosphere every year, and each year you have to put a little more, and this doesn't, in the long run, mean that you can forget about cutting emissions.
Hello, mister. Are you the captain? I want to know if you knew what chemtrails were.
Everybody knows chemtrails.
Okay.
Were you the pilot?
One of them, yeah.
Do you know about chemtrails?
Well, no.
I was just wondering if you knew about chemtrails.
No. I don't know what the hell it is.
Do you know what chemtrails are?
The what?
Chemtrails?
You got me. Everybody knows chemtrails.
Okay. I mean, what do you think is causing that? Is it the JP8, or what do you think is causing it?
I don't have any idea.
Do y'all ever cover chemtrails? Airplane pollution.
If there's an angle to do or something.
Yeah,
like
there's
that,
an angle. It's
yeah.
depopulation. I mean, they're spraying toxins into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You don't notice the chemtrails that are spraying over the top of the sky day in and day out.
We can't deny them.
But if you want me to investigate lines in the sky because you think there are chemicals coming out of the airplane, I can't do anything with that. I can't do that. I can't do anything with that because those are contrails coming out of airplanes.
Because those are
It's still methane, but it's just contrails. There are no chemtrails.
So you still are going with that story?
Well, I've never heard of the FAA investigating chemtrails, to be perfectly honest with you.
Of course you haven't.
So you talking about contrails today?
Yeah, I'm not talking about contrails.
If you're asking about military operations, that's us doing our job. I can't personally speak as to whether or not these planes are spraying crap out.
Who investigates multiple sources of air emission?
Well, I don't know. It would probably back to the FAA.
FAA is the one where you need to go. You need to go to the Federal Aviation.
The airspace basically is, loosely regulated by the FAA, depending on where you are.
Why are you guys not identifying any of these aircraft when I call you and tell you that they're spraying over my house?
I have never seen an aircraft that's doing what you're saying. I mean, we don't investigate
Pollution?
We don't investigate pollution. No, we don't.
Have you ever contacted the Department of Defense because it's a military operation?
In this area, that's the number one customer for aircraft traffic is the Department of Defense, the Navy. NASA Langley, that's there. That's Air Force, but it's still under DOD. Navy, DOD.
It just doesn't fall under something that we would be doing an inspection on, you know?
The air?
Not for a military facility.
Who regulates military aircraft?
Military regulates military aircraft.
If you being with FAA, you don't regulate military aircraft.
Correct. We don't regulate military aircraft. The military does.
The emissions from aircraft it's not something that we test for. Even if we picked up something, we wouldn't have the statutory authority to go to Department of Defense and say you're not allowed to fly over Tidewater because of X or because of Y. We don't have the statutory authority to tell the federal government what they can or can't do. We don't have the authority to measure those or to regulate those.
Military flies, they fly in the FAA airspace. So, the FAA does not tell the military where they can go, but the military tells the FAA where they're going.
How many people's complaints on chemtrails have you investigated?
We don't handle chemtrails. They're mobile sources. We have not investigated those.
Sure you're familiar with the term chemtrails?
I don't know what to tell you on it. I can tell you that we do not deal with it. If you think it's an immediate hazard, you call the police.
Hello there. Excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking at this contamination zone in the sky, like the airplanes. I've reported this to every agency on the planet. The EPA, I've testified in a hearing, the FAA, the DEQ, the FBI. There's nothing that can you take a report for me for airplane pollution? Why can't you do that? It's a crime against humanity. She just walked away from me. Did you see that, guys? The police officer just walked away from me.
What's this in reference to?
This is in reference to my 5 years of formally filed complaints to the environmental agencies that are refusing to investigate pollution crimes that I'm reporting to them.
These are environmental...
Airplane pollution.
You've already conveyed your concerns, but at this point, I can't make a recommendation to you as to your next course of action.
Right now, you're chasing a windmill. Nobody knows who owns the windmill, much less who regulates that windmill.
Because those are chemtrails.
Who is investigating this for me?
I certainly don't recall it coming across my desk. I can tell you that the department has no jurisdiction over anything that moves. That's even a car or vehicle, anything that moves in the air, on the water, or on the road. They're considered mobile sources of emissions, and we just don't deal with them. It's too much. It's going to be nothing. And no regulation.
There's no regulation that's going to regulate air emissions.
That's going to govern anything like that.
And the airplanes are spraying out something from the back of them, whether it be emissions or an intentional spraying operation, I don't know. But
it's a contrail.
It's not a ma'am, you cannot definitively state that it's a contrail without testing it.
It's called a contrail.
Oh, really? It's called a contrail? A contrail that doesn't dissipate?
Today, it'll take a little bit longer for the contrail to dissipate.
And why is that?
It's an airplane contrail. They're not spraying anything.
How would you know if they're not spraying anything or not?
We don't deal with those. You got to call the EPA or the DEQ for the state.
Good afternoon, OPPT.
I'd like to place a formal report about pollution coming out of jets.
Okay, all I can do is give you the number to call for that complaint.
Trying to make a formal report of pollution coming out of jets.
You wouldn't be doing that here. You have reached the Environmental Protection Agency.
Okay, nothing happened.
You have reached the Environmental Protection...
Do you see what's happening? Try the operator.
You have reached the United States Environmental Protection... You have reached...
It just does nothing.
Press 0 to be redirected to the operator. One moment, please.
The operator told me I had to dial 0 to get the operator.
You've reached the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Please hold. Goodbye. PA Customer Service Hotline.
How are you monitoring the air in my area?
Well, I'm gonna get you over to somebody in the Air Protection Division, okay?
The subscriber you have dialed is not available or has traveled outside the coverage area.
EPA Customer Service Hotline.
That number that you gave me was not a working number.
That is the number. Hold on 1 second, Amanda. It is a working number.
Try him again. I just want to see if the number works. Hold on.
Subscriber you have dialed is not available.
If you know the 5-digit extension, please dial it now. You have reached a non-working number at EPA Region 3.
Yet to speak to a representative.
Well, it just doesn't fall under something that we would be doing an inspection on.
Everyone, this is what your tax dollars are paying for. I just wanted everybody to see what the EPA does for everyday citizens like myself. This is what you get when you try to call about a pollution problem in your areas. I guess I'd like to speak to somebody about a case that I have pending with the EPA. Yes, 1 moment, please. Thanks.
Currently, you're not listening. Either on the phone or away from my desk.
What a surprise this time.
You have reached the Environmental Protection Agency.
The Environmental Protection Agency? Who are they protecting?
Located at 1650 Arch Street.
There's no agency that's going to govern air emissions.
Not from a mobile source, absolutely not.
All right. Anywho, that video will be posted on my YouTube channel and Facebook and everywhere else, so y'all get tired of it a year from now. All right, so you see what we're up against, folks. I was unable to ever get any help all these years of my activism and calling them and harassing them, so it's obvious that this is a problem. Okay, I need some lights, light guy.
You're the guy.
There we go. All righty. Raphael O'Neill, aka Nola Butterfly, is a chemtrail activist who first became aware of the climate engineering issue in 2010 after seeing What in the World Are They Spraying? Michael Murphy's movie, and immediately noticed the chemtrails in her local skies in New Orleans. To help parents overcome some of the propaganda rolled out by NASA, she wrote a children's chemtrail book entitled Funny Clouds, A Chemtrail Tale. In her podcast, BTV, Beyond the Veil, she explores the climate engineering issue and weather beyond even chemtrails. Raphael is seeking to challenge the scientific community to answer her questions and claims, and only facts will do. So with that, I'm going to welcome Raphael.
I'm extremely grateful to have my message go out to you today past my YouTube channel's suppressed views, past Facebook's forced timeouts and vague community guidelines, and despite the best efforts of my censors and government trolls who stalk me across the web and threaten to meet me here today. Speaking of which, are any of you guys here today? Ecoplex, ICA, AF Zimster, Peter Mitch.
Ew! Don't say their names out
Oh,
loud.
I'm so sorry. I mean, speak up now because, or forever hold your peace. I don't want to hear about how you were laughing at me at the conference later on when you're harassing me and wasting my time when I'm trying to do research. So, and it's too bad you're not here because I actually have some questions and I'm looking to be debunked. And today, up to date, I have not been debunked. The person who can debunk me, I will kiss because they will be giving me my life back. Okay? Anyways, so like Amanda has shown us, my questions to my local meteorologist. This is really going to be not easy to. Windows can't open this picture because the file appears to be damaged, corrupted, or is too large. I might not have a slideshow today, ladies and gentlemen, and I apologize. But
we don't mind.
We don't mind. Okay, so this will be a lot easier, actually. All right, well, it is appropriate for me in a full circle life event that this conference is taking place in Virginia Beach. And this is where I came from my hurricane during Katrina. My ex-boyfriend and his mother lived here, so this is where we came. And at that time, I knew nothing about chemtrails, contrails, weaponized weather, and when this short one-verse poem popped into my head in the weeks and days after I returned home to New Orleans, I didn't even know what all it would come to mean. Gone. Gone are the days I can listen to the rain falling down outside my window pane and not think that it is an enemy trying to wash us away. Gone. Something happens to you when you see your city as a bowl holding water. Some people recovered maybe a little better than me. Some of my friends never recovered. But little did I know back then how right that feeling would prove to be. So back then, the whole world watched our pitiable neglect unfold on television as if a hurricane in New Orleans had come as a big surprise to officials who had not foreseen the disaster scenario, even acting oblivious to where the convention center was at one point during the environmental disaster, while thousands of New Orleanians were left stranded on their roofs days after the storm. The total lack of response, while chaos was allowed to ensue, is shameful enough as it is, and in and of itself. But coupled with the testimony of Captain G, an Army Supply Acquisitions captain I had the incredible good fortune of being able to interview and document in my Chemtrail BTV podcast, it is downright criminal as well. You see, the thing about Captain G's testimony, the thing he couldn't believe or understand himself at the time, was that he was ordered to bring as many body bags to New Orleans as he could find 11 days before Katrina made landfall. And that 8 days prior to Katrina making landfall, he had accumulated 5,226 body bags 115 miles out of New Orleans, Louisiana, NOLA. I didn't find out about Katrina until 3 days before Katrina made landfall. Didn't get out till 2 days after being stranded in the city without services, while my friends were up on their neighbors' roofs for 4 or 5 days after Katrina made landfall, waiting for relief. At the time of his order, Captain G thought there was an intel on an up-and-coming terrorist attack, but when he realized it was for a hurricane that actually happened, he asked how they knew there was going to be one with such certainty. He was given the excuse that they knew because of satellite prediction models gave them 200% accuracy. Though I personally lost no property during the flood, I buried 5 friends to suicide the following year, finding the last one myself. So nothing about the answer takes away my outrage at the lack of response, but only validates the feelings of having had someone try to wash us away. But I wouldn't discover Captain G until years after Katrina, nor did I know the slightest thing about climate engineering at the time, much less the difference between a contrail, a chemtrail, and whatever that funny word geoengineering was. Ironically, I would not wake up to chemtrails for another 5 years until after seeing the most amazing display of chemical hazing out of the skies, coincidentally, I don't believe in coincidences, immediately after just watching What in the World Are They Spraying? There were no chemtrails for 2 months after that. That was my wake-up call. Little did I know that some of the people who helped wake me up would be some of the gatekeepers that would later try to hold me back from exposing the truth themselves. But more on that later. Meanwhile, I had written my children's book, Funny Clouds, A Chemtrail Tale, which earned me special status amongst the government trolls and 7 bad reviews before I sold my first book. Taking on these debunkers, I dove deep into their contrail narrative and discovered why we can argue till the planes fly home and still not be able to get anywhere trying to prove to our beloved family and friends that the taking out of our skies is deliberate. Because the nature of the linguistic game is set up to keep us confused and off point. Contrails, chemtrails, geoengineering, which is the correct term? Well, right off the bat, I'll tell you I've never liked the term geoengineering. even though I sure feel smart saying it. But that's because you can't use climate engineering to fix the problems of climate engineering if you're not honest that climate engineering caused the problem in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
By design, the term geoengineering ends up justifying itself. And so is therefore the worst word to use if you really want to be intellectually honest and technically correct. And if you argue about whether it's a contrail or a chemtrail, a well-gate-kept narrative, as you will soon see, you will miss the point that it is actually indeed both. Yes, both. Surprised? Not all of you. All contrails are chemtrails. After all, that condensation isn't forming on pixie dust, darling. Oh, it's not a chemtrail, it's just water vapor. Oh, really? It's just a contrail. Well, guess what? Contrails matter. It turns out, as NASA says, and I will quote their raw data, not their spin on things, even small changes in the location of and abundance of clouds could change the climate more than the anticipated changes brought about by greenhouse gases, human-produced aerosols, or other factors associated with global change. Even small changes in the location or abundance of clouds could change the climate more than the anticipated changes brought about by greenhouse gases, by other greenhouse gases. Human-produced aerosols or other factors associated with global change. That should be all we need right there to say that the climate change narrative is not complete. So that means that whether or not that cloud condensed on a chemical or pixie dust, the albedo modification of the cloud and the heat reflection and absorption properties of it has tremendous value regardless of what chemical it is nucleated on. Now you're changing chemicals and you're adding to the properties, and you're changing the properties even more. But regardless, just the fact that you have a cloud, you are affecting the heat balances in the atmosphere, in the environment. But chemtrails means deliberate spraying, and contrails are normal condensation. Some of you may be thinking, so there is a difference. Well, then I ask you, why are we normalizing contrail pollution? At any level? Engine exhaust is highly polluting, and whether there is a weaponized agenda or a nefarious chemical cocktail piggybacking on that contrail or not is almost irrelevant, because all contrails have health and environmental implications regardless. Some more than others, of course. Now, this is neither hidden nor is it showcased by MSN, mainstream media. We need to stop attacking each other and start paying attention to the monstrous pollution we are letting off the hook. Greater scrutiny and public transparency with the contrail pollution problem would yield greater scrutiny at any other covert program riding and hiding in the coattails of the persistent contrail phenomena. In the meantime, while we've been fighting this chemtrail versus contrail narrative out with our friends and beloved community, few of us realize that they legalized chemtrails for geoengineering purposes last year in April 2017, when Trump signed HB 353 into law with the Weather Forecaster Act of 2017. Taking not only the burden of proving chemtrails exist off of us, but taking the liability off those doing the chemtrailing as well by declaring it legal to do so for national security measures. This, of course, is the bogus logic that attempts to justify the use of the very technology we are exposing here today. A good solution to the chemtrail-contrail problem could be a bill such as Rosalind Peterson's H6011, if I'm not mistaken, written for Rhode Island, which would specifically ban all geoengineering and or environmental modifications that are detrimental to human and environmental health across the board. More info on how to use the platform in your state is available at zerogeoengineering.org or through California gubernatorial candidate Peter Valentino's campaign info. Peter Valentino is running for governor of California on the anti-chemtrail, anti-GMO, anti-mandatory vaccine campaign, and I would strongly suggest you spread the word with all your California friends because we need more people like him. Another reason I don't like wasting too much time on the neuro-linguistic programming game of the contrail versus chemtrail narratives is because, you know what the most prominent greenhouse gas on Earth is?
Methane?
Great guess, because you would be right if you weren't lied to. Because when you Google IPCC greenhouse gas chart, and you look at the image search results, you will find CO2 is the largest portion of the pie. But it's not until you actually add water vapor plus water vapor to your IPCC graph chart, IPCC greenhouse gas chart, that you get water vapor is 80 to 90% of greenhouse gases. This is a scientific fact. It's a scientific fact that CO2 pushers, CO2 deniers, and chemtrail activists all don't really own. And that represents billions of dollars of gatekeeping when three sides of a narrative are clueless onto the most basic scientific fact that water vapor is the most prominent greenhouse gas on Earth. And this is not a throwaway point. They'll say, oh, it's not as important as CO2. Do you actually need CO2? They loop it around. There is a feedback effect. We're not here, so let's see here. Why was so much money spent trying to cover up the significance of water vapor from public scrutiny and debate? Besides, one, to help normalize contrail pollution. It's just water vapor. Just water vapor. Shh, it's okay. Shh. Two, to reduce in the public mind the significance of albedo modification that contrail series was capable of doing. Was there another reason the significance and relevance of water vapor to the greenhouse cycle was being covered up? My podcast, BTV, issued forth yet more witnesses who held the key. One was a former Air Force weather observer who said she observed cloud seeding operations conducted in the 80s to allegedly end drought for farmers, when the reverse was actually true, that it was causing drought. She also testified that she didn't understand any of the new cloud formulas these days because they make no sense, and that the flat bottom cloud bases have disappeared. So she has no idea what the base level of these clouds are like. She used to be able to tell. Also, she says it makes no sense for there to be more moisture at the top of the atmosphere than on the bottom near the ground because there's less air up there, and so there should be, therefore, less moisture capable of being held. Now, the official reason for there being more contrails that persist and linger, according to the literature, is the presence of ice supersaturated regions, which, ISSRs, which mysteriously have become more prevalent in recent years. Allegedly, there are more contrails in the sky because there is more moisture up there, while on the ground it appears to be drying out. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing because contrails have been proven to have a dehydrating effect, but also are capable of helping create ice supersaturated regions, ISSRs, the one condition that is needed in order for all contrails to form and persist. And we've tested this out. We've seen commercial airlines, the not military, doing contrails on days they shouldn't have, but they said, oh, the ISSRs were high, and so therefore they would create a contrail. So that's very convenient. All you need to do to create ice supersaturated regions is send a fleet of planes up ahead of time to supersaturate the air. It's like this cycle of death. I mean, you guys can understand what I'm saying? That the contrails supersaturate the air, they dry it out, they create these supersaturated regions, and then the air is just so thick, of course, everything is billowing out. No matter what other chemicals you really got going on. So all that aside, why we lose in the argument, despite when we know they're spraying us. So, allegedly there are more contrails. Okay, so this term, ISSR, explains all contrail phenomena, according to debunkers, even though the term itself is missing from the NOAA's glossary of meteorological terminology. It's like the center of a big conspiracy that they're trying to wipe out, and they don't mention ISSRs. Why? Again, because they do not want you realizing the significance of water vapor. But is there another source of these ISSRs, maybe? Turns out these ISSRs are a major key, though I would not realize that for a while longer until it slowly dawned on me that there was one person I would mirror in my podcast over and over again because he was the only person who could actually explain to me where my severe weather came from. That person was Weather War 101. After seeking him out online personally, we came out with a Weather War 101 interview, highly recommended, that made waves just before the 2017 hurricane season got going. As soon as we got some traction on our interview, the gatekeepers came out in full force to try and gatekeep the chemtrail community from realizing that not only should we be looking up, but also we should be looking down at the fact that all these 1,000-year floods were coming out of rapid, synchronized water vapor releases, massive synchronized water vapor releases from wet surface air coolers put out by power plants that are then steered into place by Doppler radar to deliver these waters wherever they are desired and sent. Having self-admittedly formerly worked for power companies 30 years prior, Dane Whittington did his best to debunk his crucial realization Weather War 101 has been able to prove for years, picking straw man arguments and claiming the whole idea was preposterous. Despite there are not only being a 2004 patent for cloud seeding via cooling towers, but there being a whole history of desired and inadvertent seeding from cooling towers, ranging from just recently, when admittedly the Pittsburgh plant was caught creating a blizzard hyperlocally, to back in the 60s and 70s when they were studying the meteorological significance of inadvertent weather modification from cooling towers back then. Actually, I have a 1965 document that talks about seeding over cooling towers. It's not a new idea. They were studying it in the 70s and then they stopped. Officially. Loads of interest is going on in the literature before all of a sudden disappearing and not being seen as relevant to the climate change narrative in any way, but taken all together, it is very relevant. 70% of our energy created is released as heat waste. I heard that, this is an aside and I shouldn't get too much off track, that Carter had a way to close the loop, a nuclear loop, back in the 80s and he turned it down. And back in the day I didn't understand why, now I do. They couldn't infuse the hydrological cycle with this water vapor. I had a video I wanted to show you about NASA showing the anthropogenic effects of sulfur emissions. Well, you can replace sulfur for water vapor because a lot of these factories that are out there are releasing water vapor as well. So it has that same undeniable effect. To say that we don't affect our environment is ridiculous. But what was weird about Weather War 101 is that he kept telling me to focus on the power plants while he was schooling me not to worry about Doppler radar so much. This is where I get weary, that he too might be a gatekeeper. I don't know, but because anytime someone tries to keep my attention away from something, I end up wanting to inspect it even closer. Kind of stubborn like that. And so after our interview is when I made the discovery that, in my opinion, is the most vulnerable Achilles heel of the entire climate engineering puzzle. That proves once and for all that our weather is indeed weaponized and our hydrological cycle is hacked. And the discovery is this, that the entire hurricane season of 2017 made landfall with the eye of the storms going directly, think pool table, directly into Doppler radar, without exception. And this trend continued inland for several Dopplers more after making landfall. I have the evidence, as crazy as it sounds. It's a matter of historical document. Even if I drop dead right now, you all can pick this up. I was so excited by this discovery and naturally couldn't wait to hear why Weather War 101 didn't mention this himself. And why under these circumstances he would not acknowledge my discovery. Now he talked about Doppler steers the storms, but I didn't realize it like literally brings it right into it. Irma, Nate, Maria, all went right into Doppler radar. Puerto Rico taken out with one Doppler radar storm. Millions of people displaced. They're not even done committing suicide in that group. That'll be next year. So did Hurricane Harvey, but because it triangulated between these three Doppler radars, it's trickier to prove. But with Harvey, I was given an off-the-record witness in the military who was stationed in Texas at the time and warned me about the storm before my meteorologist did, because he was given an earlier warning when he was told to pack his bags and be ready to evacuate before it was a tropical depression. I posted that on Facebook and got some attention. before the meteorologist at any time. This is the second source that testified to me about advanced knowledge of the storm. And this second one was able to give me the warning so that I could place the warning out there before my meteorologist as well. After being kicked out to Harvey's, when I made the Doppler and eye of the storm for myself, because I was watching all the storms like a hawk. My fabulous team, without whom I could not exist back in New Orleans, and I then went back and checked out the storm that was personal to us, Katrina. The storms I interacted with 6 Doppler radars in a row. It's like you find the murderer of your best friend. But still, it wasn't until I went online to check on what Doppler radar was doing and noticed that not only was it down that day, but we had 100% normal clouds, with flat bottoms and all in a thick fog that lingered the following morning. That it occurred to me along with all the other evidence, oh my God, the entire hydrological cycle was hacked. I didn't write this in, but I Google search atmospheric rivers because it seems to be more prevalent now. We can hear about atmospheric rivers, atmospheric rivers. You know that term didn't exist on Google before 1988 Doppler rolled out? And then the first term is in 1992 when they refer to it as a bomb, atmospheric river bomb. Now we got the Pineapple Express going through California all the time. They don't get any rain, but they get flood. I asked Weather Whirlwind 3 times to tell me what he thought of the Doppler steering the storms around the eye discovery. Twice he ignored the question, and the third time he never got back to me. Now he's AWOL. He hasn't put out a video since December. With Doppler radar interacting so directly with our hurricanes, why would he just focus on power plants? Maybe he's just a good explanation for why he left me hanging and now he's AWOL, or maybe he's just another gatekeeper. See, I don't know, but he gave me the most valuable, in my esteem, piece of the climate engineering puzzle, and the one that makes the most sense in regards to what I was seeing in my daily skies for myself. The weather was happening, the weather was happening not just at home, far off in some far-off facility in Alaska, harbor, but locally as well. And this was the most damning piece of the climate engineering pie that contradicts the whole global warming narrative and why billions of dollars were spent hazing out the significance of water vapor. See, even gatekeepers can show you the way once you realize what it is they don't want you to see. So why all the gatekeeping and distractions from water vapor and Doppler and hurricanes especially? Because that is the Achilles heels for industrialists. It is the one thing they cannot hide or pretend is related to global warming. If you had found a way to hack the hydrological cycle, wouldn't you have sent your men out ahead of the narrative you were expecting would ensue, so that they can control the narrative, giving you half-truths and distractions that would keep you from realizing that yes, not only are some of our clouds artificially induced and laced with various chemical cocktails, but the entire hydrological cycle is hacked and is being managed via microwaves that heat up water or clouds and whatever else gets in the way. All that is needed for Doppler to heat up a cloud is for it to be left on one spot for too long. Something that is hard to prove intent on allegedly, because proving that Doppler was left on deliberately is hard to prove. But taking the sum total of hurricanes that follow this trend of diving directly into Doppler in one season or over many seasons will make it a statistical odd or impossibility that is unlikely to be matched naturally. And that is the trick to proving liability in court, even if intent cannot be established. It would be foolish for me and my family to try and take this to court, as we all could guess what would happen to us if we did, based off just the threats Facebook allows anti-chemtrail activists, terrorists to make. I complained about this meme. It was left up while I was blocked for a few weeks on Facebook. It said, don't hit a chemtrailer with glasses, hit him with a bat. Apparently that makes Facebook community guidelines. That scares me. But a group of people outraged and recently made homeless by severe man-made weather could band together and demand accountability in safer numbers. All I'm doing today is showing you where your troubles lie, and you will need to do something about it. Do not think I have this. I do not. I've come further than I thought I ever could, just by being the kid and the emperor wears no clothes. by refusing to be bamboozled by snake oil salesmen until I get an answer that makes sense in my heart, my head, and my gut. I need you and others to step up, and thanks to all who do and who are here today. You are my heroes. We're in this together. No one's getting off of this. We're not going to Mars. There's no escaping. So, while I know what I'm saying may indeed be hard to believe even for those who consider themselves awake, you must realize that this is nothing more than what Tesla told J.P. Morgan Chase would be possible in the future after making fog so thick during his Colorado Springs lab experiments back in 1899 that people couldn't see their hands in front of their faces. 1899. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a world of hot water. And before the technology gets further diversified through the integration of more arrays, and thus harder to pinpoint and prove, we must cut them off at the pass, preventing the rollout of 5G, which will be more of what Tesla foresaw for the world, only at a micro level. And we must, while it is still possible to do so, hold them accountable for the storms we can prove were steered, and demand accountability, whether they want to claim it was done deliberately or not. Because we're not seeing weather interacting with Doppler radar and power plants, but what we are witnessing, we're not only seeing weather interacting with Doppler radar and power plants, but we are witnessing is the completion of the hacking of the hydrological cycle that Tesla said would be possible well over 100 years ago. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the other speakers today, and stay till the end for my Doppler timeline presentation, as it's sure to have something you've never heard before. It'll blow a few minds. It blew my own mind while I was researching this. It will add to our chemtrail timeline and add dimension to our historical perspective. God bless us all, we need it.
A brief history about me. In my previous life, prior to my awakening, I was an alternative fashion designer, marketer, website creator. I devoted my time to creating and building an empire, never looking into anything conspiracy related. It wasn't until about 2008 when a friend of mine was saying how 9/11 was an inside job that changed everything for me. I had a friend that died in the towers, so I wanted to figure out what he was talking about. The outcome of my research led me to the realization that 9/11 was not what we were told, and that pissed me off big time, so I began to research everything. I did quite a bit of research on anything I could think of. I soon discovered that everything was backwards and one big lie. My new life passion was and has been a truther for the past 10 years. Last year I launched truthpirates.com to make it easier for me to expose the lies, as I am terrible when it comes to explaining what's going on, especially considering the magnitude of the deception. Truth Pirates' #1 target is chemtrails, followed by fake healthcare, food, money, education, earth, almost 50 categories now, and another 15 are in the works. I am presently working on a new website, skycrimes.com, which is devoted to chemtrails. The platform will be similar to Truth Pirates, in which it will be a portal to chemtrails information. I will also be adding a user contribution section inspired by Amanda, using the Everyone Has a Voice theme, where other chemtrail truthers can have a page featuring their own message, images, and contact information. For the conference, I figured chemtrails would be discussed enough. My contribution here will be what you can do to spread awareness and ultimately a change. Awareness, yes, people are walking around today totally oblivious to the daily spraying. Streaks from horizon to horizon all over the sky, causing overcast conditions. It seems impossible that people don't notice. I don't know if it's the fluoride or the smartphones. It's just bizarre. In addition to spreading the truth via the internet, I spread awareness in person. When I'm out and about and I see the sky is a mess, I will stop and take pictures so others can see me and wonder why I'm taking pictures of the sky. Often people will come up to me and ask what I'm doing. When they do, the door is open to a conversation as to what is going on. I try to explain what's taking place in the non-tinfoil hat way. I believe the spraying is to modify the weather with the added bonus of curbing the population and creating health issues. However, I try to avoid that for my opening, as the average person will get instantly defensive. The best approach from my experience is to say that it's chemtrails, aka geoengineering, designed to cool the earth by spraying all kinds of chemicals, including aluminum, barium, strontium into the atmosphere to reflect the sun's light. If you aren't hip to the eugenics program, I suggest visiting the depopulation section of truthpirates.com. I also printed business cards for Truth Pirates and Sky Crimes, as it's just too much to explain in person. I always hand them out after an encounter and just leave them everywhere for others to see and pick up. I've brought some with me today to hand out in the cafeteria area. The key to any movement is numbers. We need to get people to tilt their heads upwards to the sky and explain to them that is not just water vapor. The spraying is hazardous to our health and all kinds of life in general. When enough people know what's going on, then things will change. The power of one. What can you do? You're just one person. I've heard that so many times, it's like the most annoying thing anyone can say to me. Well, I guess it's good in a way that they do say that, because I like a challenge. The more crap I hear about not being able to make a change, the more things I will come up with to prove them wrong. The powers that be want you to think you are powerless. However, there's far more of us and they know it. Do what you can and use whatever talents you have. The easiest is to talk to family and friends. Remember that most don't have a clue, so try not to get into so much that you can come across as a nut, which is difficult for me, trust me. I've gone over the edge quite a few times. The easiest when you're out and about, shopping, the bank, the post office, people always comment on the weather in their chit-chat. The thing is, it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, sunny, cloudy, you can always incorporate chemtrails into the discussion. You'll hear, wow, it's such a nice day. And my response will be, it would be a lot better if they weren't spraying us. It sure is wet out there. My response, considering all the spraying this week, I'm not surprised. You see where I'm going. I let them know about chemtrails and follow up with the handing of one of my cards. I let them know that there's quite a bit of information available to check it out, because it's just too much to get into somebody and you just sound like an idiot anyway. I've started incorporating health-related issues into my discussions. Coughing, everyone is coughing. My response when I hear someone coughing is, no wonder you're coughing. There's been so much spraying over the past few weeks, everyone has a cough. And I always get the response, what's spraying? Social media. Never let a weather comment go by without a response, especially when the poster is saying how beautiful the sky looks when all you see is chemicals. Keep in mind when you post the reply, you aren't just posting to that person who's posting the message to begin with. You're communicating with all their friends and your friends. They all see what you post, so your reach is broad. Go out of your way. This is the most difficult way to spread awareness. Just stopping people and pointing out the sky, that's hard to do. Check out our event host Amanda's videos for examples. Bye Bye Blue Sky is a great website to visit for ideas for outreach programs and setting up meetups with like-minded people. I'm a guerrilla marketer, and in my travels, it's super easy as I just leave business cards everywhere. You can also advertise, taking out ads in newspapers, Craigslist, wherever. Just get the message out there. My favorite is t-shirts. Get yourself a chemtrail t-shirt, you will be questioned. Window decals, bumper stickers, super easy way to get people thinking. Don't think you're going to don't think you're going to wake someone up immediately. It takes time. You can only plant seeds. They will see the sky in a whole new light. Never again will they not notice. They will always question it. Even if they don't believe it, they will have it on their mind. Doing nothing is not an option.
All right, next up is going to be truth artist Sean Walden, aka Ninja Scroll, co-host of The New Element with Renegade Smith. Luckily, I've been on the show twice as their guest.
Here you go, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Right.
Go on, Pat. I'm good. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know a lot of you came from far places like I did. I came from Jersey. I got some Jersey people over there. Use your rooms right there. Yeah, I'm like the entertainment, I guess you could say, but I will express some truth to you at the same time. I know we got people from California, we got people from Tennessee, we got people from Canada, Australia. We getting it in over here. You know, we're going to do it right. We're going to spread the truth from all over the world. So, I'm not going to come up here and give a whole bunch of statistics and numbers because you're going to have plenty of that tonight. You got plenty of researchers that are going to give you all of that stuff. I do know about what we're talking about here, about the chemtrails, and I'm going to go ahead and just give you a little, I guess we call it spoken word. I am a hip-hop artist, so I will. It's going to be kind of like rap without music. If y'all know what spoken word is, but that's what you're going to get from me. So sit back and just enjoy it. All right, this is called Look Up. Agenda 21, depopulation, all in grades. It's our world, yet we are nothing more than pawns and simply slaves. To the system, they try to darken the light that God has given with milky white chemical laced smoke that fills the air we breathe in. Not believing? Just tilt your head back 45 degrees in. See it for yourself. I wonder, why are we all sneezing? Congested. I feel a certain tightness in my chest, man. I'm constantly coughing up phlegm again and again. I need rest, man. I see blue and white checkerboard skies, X marks the spot. They say they spray the skies that way so that it won't be hot. Global warming. The cause of it, man, they say it's CO2. And the way they fix global warming is this. Get rid of me and you. Is that true? Undesirables. Not everyone can have AC in cars. Just the rich folks, celebrities, politicians, and movie stars. Ask Obama. According to him, the whole world will boil over. He said that in one of his speeches. He claims it's fact, and that is that. They give us scraps, leftovers. In conclusion, the chemtrails that we speak about here today is truly fact. You can see the planes with the nozzle that spray the chemtrails. Just lean back. That's it. Thank you very much.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Amanda, for having me here today. We are all here for the same purpose, to expose this wicked agenda to poison nature and the citizens of the world. By spraying chemical-laden aerosols into the atmosphere. We have neither consented to nor approve of this agenda. In fact, I believe most of us can agree on this one thing. We vehemently object. I vehemently object. I can recall as a child clear blue skies and clouds that made interesting and sometimes comical shapes. Today, as a mother and soon-to-be grandmother, I witness days, sometimes even week on end, without so much as a ray of sunshine. The shapes of the clouds have changed as well. There are no more Winnie the Pooh bears and laughing dogs in the sky.
They have been replaced with tic-tac-toe grids, anarchy signs, and pentagons. I spent many hours outdoors in my youth, playing hide and seek and tag with the neighborhood children. We would often go to parks and playgrounds, ride our bikes all day long, and play in the water sprinklers without a care in the world. Summers were always too short, but the sunlight was always more than plentiful. My children are growing up in a very different and strange time. It is a constant battle between trying to ensure a childhood where living free and in nature is at the center, and keeping them protected from poison falling from the sky by shutting them indoors. Tell me, what is a mother to do? How do I explain to my 3-year-old that Mama cannot take him outside to run around and bathe in the warmth of the sun, as it is unavailable due to the sheet of filth that constantly blankets our environment? There are many still in denial of geoengineering via stratospheric aerosol injection. To them I say, shame on you. As it is so often said, this is the age of information, and it is more readily available than ever before. People are more consumed with their mundane lives, too concerned about their next paycheck, too absorbed in their Instagram and Snapchat accounts, too caught up in which Hollywood star is headlining, to ever look up and see the truth that lies before them. Shame on you for fighting over who was president and cutting off friends and family for merely trying to reach you with the truth. Shame on you for accepting any narrative given to you without first investigating to be sure of its validity. Shame on you, for it is because of you we will all, along with this plane we call Earth, will continue to be terrorized by our oppressors. I wonder, what kind of world are we leaving behind for future generations? A life without sunlight, a world as dark as it is cruel, a place where the birds no longer sing and the bees no longer buzz, a void and cold earth where the trees have only 2 colors, brown and green. Autumn without the bright reds, yellows, and orange shades we have all grown so accustomed to. Springs without a single magnolia bloom and with colors as drab as a wasteland winter. How will we look our children in the face, our grandchildren, when they ask us, why did we not stop these people from poisoning our realm? How did we fail them so miserably? We can blame the government, who are the ones behind the systematic dumbing down and intoxication of the citizens of the world. We can blame the media for not giving those same citizens a voice or a platform to make the information known publicly. We can blame the meteorologists for knowing the truth and covering it all up, propagating fear over massive storms and weather events that are more than likely man-made in nature. We can blame the pilots, most of whom are obeying orders, and by doing so, are inflicting harm on their own families, neighbors, and friends. We can blame those who work at NASA and help develop these dangerous and highly noxious concoctions that coat our skies, as well as manipulating the climate at will. We can blame the United Nations, who allowed this assault to take place, never recognizing it for what it actually is, a crime against humanity. Or we could blame ourselves. We are the voice of the people. We are the people. When are we going to be accountable? When will we step out of our comfort zones and take a stand against this injustice? Not tomorrow, not in a year, not after we finish school or when we get a few days off of work, but instead right here and right now, as there is no better time than the present. We have allowed this system to control and brainwash for far too long. As K. Reno, a conscious rapper, stated in one of his songs, nobody wants to protest, rally, and picket, but there's a line around the corner for them concert tickets. I wanted to keep this presentation short as time is limited and others need the opportunity to express their own ideas and thoughts on the stratospheric aerosol injection program.